Radio MD.
RadioMD.com.
This is Healthy Children, brought to you by the American Academy of Pediatrics on RadioMD.com. Here's Melanie Cole, MS.
You know, dealing with the aftermath of a disaster is difficult enough for healthy adults, but what about our children? It can be so scary and so devastating to them because their imaginations take them in a whole different place than what we think of as the reality of what happened. And my guest is Dr. David Schonfeld. He's a developmental behavioral pediatrician, and he's the director of the National Center for School Crisis and Bereavement at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children. Welcome to the show, Dr. Schonfeld. In the wake of disasters, any disaster, Boston Marathon, September 11th, anything, what do we say to our children, and when do we turn off the TV? I mean, because it seems to me, Dr. Schonfeld, that the disasters are getting more and more graphic as to what we see, you know, and how do we know what to turn on, what to turn off? Okay,
well, first off, I think as soon as you find out about a disaster or a crisis situation in your community is a good time to talk to your children. A lot of the media reports are not really intended for children, and I'm not sure that they're always helpful for adults either when they're particularly violent or graphic. So you're right. The information should be coming from individuals like parents and other trusted adults that the child feels comfortable with should be the one starting the conversation, not the TV. But I would caution you that it's not just the television. I've heard very poignant interviews done on the radio that can be emotionally challenging for kids to listen to, and we have to keep in mind a lot of this is on the internet, and it's on their phones as well, particularly for older children. And so we have to think about all the sources of information that may come to them, and sometimes very quickly, and talk directly to our kids instead of relying on those sources to deliver the information.
Well, you make a great point, Dr. Schonfeld. The sources are so many now. And as a parent, you know, my son's got an iTouch, and then there's the TV and the radio, and he's on the internet, and all of these things might come at once, and tweets and things. And how do you... What do you cut it all off and say, don't look at Facebook, don't look at Twitter now, just, you know, get off all social media, let's watch Nickelodeon for a little while or go outside and play?
Well, what I would suggest is not that you tell them don't watch anything and let's just do something else. What you're saying is let's talk about it. Let's start by talking about it until you've gotten your questions answered, and then we'll go do something else. So, you know, it was interesting when the shooting occurred in Aurora in the movie theater. I was actually about to board a plane with my daughter, and she saw it on CNN in the airport while we were waiting, and she brought it to my attention because it caught her attention first because she actually wanted to see the opening for Batman. And at that point, I looked to her and I said, let me know what's going on, because I was getting emailed with questions from the media. And she was able to tell in about 5 to 10 minutes what was going on, what was trending on Twitter, what were the conversations and concerns that kids were having around the country, and feed me that information. And then we got on the plane, and while we were taxiing, she was able to turn back on her phone and also give me an update. So it's not that we should necessarily turn it off. It's just that we should not have kids using them as the way to get information without us also being there to help them process it.
And I guess I didn't mean turn it off. I think that I meant more turn it off till we've had our chance to discuss it so that they don't get the information from so many sources and people's comments and people, you know. So give us some language. Give us ways to speak to our children. And I'm talking children 8, 9, 10, 11, in there who still are young enough to have nightmares, but yet old enough to sort of understand things. Because the littler kids... We'll talk about them, but stick with like the 8, 9, 10-year-olds, because they're the ones that get scared at night.
Yeah. First off, I think what you want to start with is by asking them what they've already heard and what questions they have. A lot of times we think that we're hiding this from children, and they really do pick up on it. So start by saying, did you hear anything about what happened today or yesterday, and what questions do you have? Then what I would do is answer any questions that they might have. But let's say they say, I haven't heard anything yet. What happened? And then you tell them in very simple and basic way the facts about what happened. There was a bomb. There was some people were running in a race in Boston. Boston is a town, where talk about how it's located in relation to where you live. It's very, very. It's on the other side of the country, or it's very nearby, and that we don't know why, but there was a bomb that went off, and a number of people were hurt, and some even died, and that's made people very sad and also scared because they're trying to figure out why it happened. And then stop and let the kid kind of absorb that information and ask questions about what's relevant to them.
Now, what if what's relevant to them is, but Mommy, you're going to be doing a marathon like that next weekend?
Well, I think one of the things we tend to do as parents is that when children tell us that they're afraid of something, we try and talk them out of why they should be afraid. There's no need for you to be afraid. That just happened in Boston. That's not going to happen again. These are rare events. And really what we probably should start with is, so it sounds like you're scared about that, and not try and make them give up the feeling or the concern if it's a legitimate and understandable concern. If they said something to the effect of, well, I don't even want to go out to the grocery store because there are bombs going out all over the place, then, you would say, no, actually, this is a very rare event, and explain why they probably don't need to be as concerned about that. But if they have a legitimate concern, then I think what you need to do is talk with them about how do you deal with your fears and worries. What is it that you are doing to keep yourself as safe as possible, and how you expect and expect, you not only hope, but you expect to be safe, but that you can understand why that might frighten them. So what do you do when you are scared? Do you want to call me right after the race is done? Do you want, what are the things that we're going to do to try and manage some of those feelings? But you have to realize that if a child says they're scared, they are scared. And we can't just tell them that they ought not to be. We should tell them how to manage that feeling.
And how much do we rely on the schools, Dr. Schonfeld? Like, for the example, Newtown. Now here's something that really can hit home with any family. Elementary school, terrifying. And the schools offered their crisis and bereavement, counseling, which is what you do as well. What do we leave up to the schools, and what do we take from ours if our kids are saying, I don't even want to go to school?
Well, I think the issue is that schools can play an important role, and a lot of my work has been in trying to help schools provide supportive environments to children who have been through difficult situations or experienced loss. And so, as an example, that weekend of the shooting, I did prepare a script that could be used in schools in Connecticut and elsewhere about how to start the conversation in classrooms. I think when you deal with very difficult situations like that, parents need to play a big role in trying to support and help their kids deal with these issues, but they could use some help, and schools can do that as well. So I think it's really a partnership between the schools and homes and other community-based groups to come together to help children feel safe in all of those environments. So to me, it's not an either-or, but I think teachers need to feel comfortable that they know what to do, and also that they can trust that parents understand they play an important role in this and see them as partners.
In the last 30 seconds, Dr. Schonfeld, wrap it up for us. Give people that language, what to say to your children after a disaster.
I think part of what you want to say is that you understand that they have questions and concerns, that you are there not only to help protect them and to keep them safe, but also to help them feel they know how to deal with the emotions that are associated with these events, and that you are there and you welcome their questions. And if they have any questions, they should come and talk to you.
And that's what it's about, is talking to your children about these disasters. Find out what they already know and use language they can understand, and be understanding. Don't dismiss their feelings because they're true. This is Melanie Cole for Radio MD and Healthy Children. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at YourRadioMD. Have a great day and stay well.